There she
There
is.
we are.
Hello.
Hey,
How are you?
I am doing okay. How are you?
Cannot complain, girl. I am so excited about this conversation. I've been looking forward to it for the last couple of weeks. Now, if you see me
Yay.
looking this way, I've got one screen with our questions. I've got another screen with your website and the beautiful lead magnet that I downloaded from your website.
Oh,
But we're just going to get right into it if that is okay with you. Can you please say your name for me to make sure I'm pronouncing it correctly?
yes, Samaria.
Samaria. Okay.
Yes,
I think I said
yes.
Samaria. Samaria
Yeah, Garrett.
Garrett.
Yes.
Garrett,
Uh-huh.
correct.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Wonderful. Well, Samaria, tell us a little bit about yourself and what inspired you to create Feeding the Root Nutrition.
Yeah, so I am a registered dietitian. So I was a dietitian before I was a hairstylist.
Mhm.
And so I, like many Black women, like went through the natural hair movement and learned a lot about myself and my identity. I did the big chop.
Thanks.
Very a very pivotal, a very, very pivotal time
Uh-huh.
in my life. Kind of like when I was a teenager. And so, yeah, just experiencing a lot like as a teenager in this new hair texture. And I knew I wanted to become a dietitian.
Mhm.
But throughout my throughout school, I wasn't necessarily sure which type of dietitian I was going to become. I started out with like maybe going to the Navy. I thought maybe I would do sports. Um, all this time, still like I was making YouTube videos, and back in the day, we used to like DIY all the products.
Correct. Oh my God. Don't give me all those YouTube videos. If I see one more person like hold up something and put it up to the like, just get to it.
Right. So like I was learning so much about my hair from YouTube and experimenting. And so I
Okay.
started making YouTube videos. So again, it was like two different things, right? It's like this career that I was pursuing and then these things that I was experiencing
Mhm.
like topically with my hair, with my scalp. My dad has psoriasis. And so I
Mm.
have struggled with like some seborrheic dermatitis. So all that to say, really feeding the root was like birthed out of me like looking at the field and not seeing anyone else make this connection that
Yes.
I had experienced like in my real life. And that once I started working as a dietitian, I started seeing was really important to the people I was working with. I would hear people come into the hospital, when I was working at, and they would say things like, I know this is not what I'm here for, but my hair is coming out. And if I'm
Mhm.
honest, like that's something that's really important to me. And again,
Mhm.
like being a helper, being someone that had experienced this in my own life, I just started digging. And so then that's what led me to look at like trichology and then eventually pursue the natural hair license. So
I
yeah. So
I
yeah.
love that. I love your
Yeah.
journey. So, one of the reasons I've been really excited to have this conversation with you is in my personal business, Remember Health, we were hired earlier this year to write a curriculum on hair and health equity. And
Yes.
so, you just mentioned psoriasis, and we hit on seborrheic dermatitis, we hit
Uh-huh.
on traction alopecia, eczema, right? And I think, even though I'm a nurse, right, that's not the realm that I'm in. And it
Mm-hmm.
was my first time where I really looked at there are not equitable hair resources for hair or
Mm-hmm.
for scalp for people of color in the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had to
Right.
do a lot of research and talk to people. I actually found a community health worker that was really trying to do something in the organization that she worked in to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that there were products that represented all the types of patients that they
Mm-hmm.
see.
Mm-hmm.
And you just touched on in just that one answer
Yeah.
so many of the things that was really like this big aha moment for
Yeah.
me at the beginning of the year. And I had never really thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
I never,
Mm-hmm.
and I love the fact that you said that it's something that's so personal and so important.
Mm-hmm.
Our crown, like baby, if anything happened to
Absolutely.
my locks right now, like I probably have a nervous breakdown. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And I'm
Yes.
a natural girly. My teenager's 16, so 16 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's a part
Mm-hmm.
of who I am. And so I'm
Absolutely.
I'm loving this conversation that we're getting to tonight. Is your hair trying to tell you something?
Mm-hmm.
Because it is or
Mm-hmm.
can be speaking to you
Mm-hmm.
about your overall health. And of course,
Yeah.
we're going to tie that with diabetes tonight. So
Yeah.
super, super, super excited about that.
Yeah.
All right. So you've already told us you are a registered dietitian,
Hmm.
nutritionist.
Hmm.
You're also a hair practitioner. You talked about how those two areas of expertise came together. Which one was first? You were
I became a dietitian first. Hmm.
okay.
Hmm.
And then you
Yes.
became a hairstylist.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I studied trichology first. I don't know if you've heard of that before.
Okay,
Have you heard of
tell
that?
us, please tell us what so I kind of know because I see an electrolysis twice a
Hmm.
month.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
kind of know what that is, but for
Hmm.
those that are listening, please tell us what trichology is.
Yeah, so trichology is like the study of hair and scalp.
Mm-hmm.
So it is kind of I would say like a certification that most hairstylists will do.
Mm-hmm.
Most healthcare professionals aren't necessarily doing that because dermatologists, they don't really necessarily need that. And then other like healthcare professionals aren't necessarily doing that. Maybe nurses sometimes in the aesthetic space might pursue a
Mm-hmm.
trichology certification, but for the most part, it is hairstylists. And
Okay.
so they are pursuing it to learn more about the hair, scalp, and various conditions. But again, it's just a certification. So it doesn't give you a license to really do anything. So
Okay.
that's why
Okay.
I did the natural hair license. And so I actually have license to like touch the scalp, shampoo the scalp, assist with
Okay.
in practice applying products and things like that to the scalp.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for letting us know what that means. Now, the next question, your work connects nutrition, culture, metabolic care, health, and identity. So, why
Mhm.
is it important for you to look at all of those areas together instead of treating them as separate issues?
Mhm. I mean, I just think like we're whole like human beings, right? And so again, working in like the hospitals where I was working, I just was feeling like I wasn't addressing. I didn't have the space to
Yeah.
like address the whole human in the way that I like wanted to, and so. Um, it's like the person is talking to you about their hair coming out or like their cultural foods or that they're experiencing things like in their day-to-day life that are impacting them, but like I'm just here to talk about nutrition. Right.
Mhm.
That didn't feel very like
Yeah. Yeah.
human to me. So that is why I, stepped out and, been fortunate to work in private practice and really provide more of that like holistic care because all of
Mhm.
those things really come together. One of the things that I've been talking about in practice recently is like systems and routine and like lifestyle because nutrition doesn't really do much if it feels like you're scrambling every single day, right, to meet
Yeah.
those like
Yeah.
very basic needs. And
Yeah.
so I think again, it's important for me to address those things so that the people that I'm working with know that like I care and I see them, and I am like valuing the things that they do.
I love this. This is getting so good. So, for those of you enjoying, thank you so much. We've got quite a few people watching. If you have a question, please put it in the comments. We'll try to address your questions as we go. One thing that I want to ask is about your practice. So, you mentioned you've been fortunate enough to be in private practice. Kudos, fellow entrepreneur. I know it is not easy, but it is worth it, right? So,
Yes,
tell
yes.
me about Feeding the Root. I think that's the
Hmm.
name of
Hmm.
it. Tell me
Yes,
about
yes.
how the services you provide and how you work with people.
Uh-huh. So I came up with the name Feeding the Root for a lot of different reasons. I also grew up on a farm. I don't know if I mentioned that part. Back in the day when I was like making my own homemade shea butters, I was like getting lavender from the garden and like infusing it and doing all types of things. So it started kind of with a lot of these things in my head. Like, okay, I grew up on a farm, right? So like the root of the food, with, but also the root of the hair bulb, with also the root of like chronic conditions or just like nutritional issues. So
Yes.
all these things kind of coming together, and that's how the name kind of came about.
I love
Eating
that.
the root. And my logo, if you see it, it looks like a hair bowl, but it also looks like a root vegetable. So it just really up to your interpretation, like how you like perceive it. And so I work in private practice one-on-one with patients mostly dealing with diabetes, prediabetes, hair loss, some at PCOS and disordered eating. I practice from a weight neutral, culturally inclusive perspective.
Mhm.
And then I also do nutrition consulting, like media work. So on a larger scale, working like TV, writing, things like that, to really spread the message, because one-on-one care is great, but as we know, like, this message really needs to be spread
Right. Which
wide and far. So,
reasons why we're so glad that you agreed to do this. And thank you so much for doing
yeah.
it. So you mentioned your clientele, those with diabetes, prediabetes, hair loss. I can't remember the other one. But let's get into the nitty gritty as it relates to diabetes. Now tell me
Hmm.
about the connection with hair loss and insulin
Hmm.
resistance, if there is
Insulin
one, because I think there is one.
Yes, yeah. So primarily this is related to like androgenetic alopecia, which is the hormone mediated like genetic hair loss.
Mhm. You
Um,
said, wait, androgenetic. That sounds like
Androgenetic.
the male hormone
Yes.
androgens. Okay. Okay.
Androgens, yes. So androgenetic alopecia, female pattern hair loss, male pattern hair, they're kind of
Okay.
the same. Mhm.
Okay.
So this one primarily, it's it when there's the elevated insulin, so the insulin resistant, it causes the ovaries to produce more androgens. So then those
Mhm.
androgens are aromatized, or converted into DHT, which is dihydrotestosterone, which is a more potent form, and then it that is what harms the hair follicle. So that's really like the main correlation there.
Okay.
Elevated insulin, elevated androgens.
What else should someone that has diabetes, prediabetes, or insulin sensitivity, what else should they be concerned about as it relates to just their hair health in general, not just
Hmm.
hair loss, but any kind of conditions that could be
Hmm.
affected because of their overall medical health?
Hmm. Hmm. So there also could be a more like, so with androgenic alopecia, it's a slow progressive hair loss. Most
Hmm.
people don't experience a lot of hair loss with androgenic alopecia. It slowly thins over time.
Okay.
So there's a different type of hair loss that you experience a lot of shedding. So that's called telogen effluvium or telogen effluvium. So it's very similar to like the postpartum hair loss, where people are experiencing lots of hair in the shower, in their brush. And so people with diabetes or prediabetes could also experience that, and that could be related to the nutrient delivery, right? The
Mhm.
For nutrient delivery, right? But the hair is a very energy intensive cell. It's a very energy intensive process. Although it's not essential, it uses a lot
I was just about
of
to say, what does
energy.
that mean? You're saying it uses a lot of energy. So
Yes, it.
as we're eating, whatever we're eating, we know that whatever we eat breaks down, it goes to our muscles, it goes
Uh-huh,
to our
uh-huh.
cells, and so on and forth. You're saying the same thing happens with our hair cells as well.
Yes, yes, it uses the energy. But the thing is, like I said, it's not essential. So when we think about priorities, it's low on the totem pole. Although we would feel
Okay.
like we would die if we didn't have our
Right,
hair, we like
right.
really wouldn't die.
Uh-huh.
And so it's important when we think about like optimal nutrition, all of that, right? We didn't think about that when we think about the hair and the energy and the nutrients that the hair needs. So poor nutrient delivery, as well as the excess blood sugar, causing the inflammation. So there is a potential like correlation between what's called CCCA,
Mhm.
central citrifugal cicatricial alopecia. It's very, very
Say that 3 times.
right, right. That's how to say it. CCCA is very common amongst Black women, and there was a study, the Black Women's Health Study. You familiar with it? The like
No,
large
thanks.
one. It was a pretty large Black Women's Health Study, and they within that study they looked at the correlation of like Black women who have diabetes
Mhm.
and CCCA. So it's a central hair loss. It's like starts in the center and it goes outward, and it's a scarring, inflammatory related hair
Mm.
loss. So they're still really trying to figure out the cause of it, but it is related to inflammation. I know in my practice, I see that show up a lot with
You see it.
diabetes.
I was just about to say, is it primarily in women that have diabetes that you see
Yes,
that?
yes,
Okay. Have you
hmm
ever seen it
hmm
in women that don't have diabetes?
yes. I have seen it.
Okay. So it's not, there may be a correlation, but that's still being studied. So
Right, right, right.
it's just a higher numbers in women that have diabetes.
Yes.
Okay, so we got CCCA, we got the other terms. I can't repeat any of these terms, right? But it's all great information. A question that comes up is, if I have diabetes, or how can I put this? Will someone see changes in their hair first as a precursor, or maybe a sign that they have diabetes or prediabetes? Or will they see the diabetes or prediabetes and those symptoms first and then say, oh, well, the hair loss, then start seeing the hair loss afterwards? Like, which one comes first?
Yeah. I think people definitely can experience those signs and symptoms first, but I think the thing with hair loss, sometimes it can be hard because we don't know what's causing it, right? It could have been like a stressful season, it could have been like a nutrient deficiency. And so sometimes it can be hard to like pinpoint that, like, oh, that hair loss that happened 3 months ago when I went for my annual exam and my A1C was elevated, that's what caused like the hair
Okay.
loss. So it can be challenging to like really pinpoint.
Which is which. And something else that you mentioned, you talk about how the hair uses energy, right? The energy from the nutrients that we take in, but it's not a priority. So it's probably going to be the last area where nutrients go in my body, because it has to feed the organs, and it's got to
Yeah.
feed my muscles, and it's got to. Question though, what if I want more nutrients in my hair? Do I then eat more of a certain particular type of food or food group, or do I take a supplement that is specifically for, like, I think I see things like for skin, hair, and nails always grouped together. So what is your advice and recommendations there?
Yeah. Supplement industry. It's a tough one. So I think when we think about nutrients directly towards like the hair, I would lean towards topicals if possible,
Mm,
because we can't necessarily say when we eat something where it's going to go,
correct.
right? And so if we can use like topical nutrients on the hair and scalp, we can ensure that it's going into our scalp.
Uh-huh.
And then as far as nutrition, I would usually recommend trying to optimize that as much as possible to meet those like basic needs. And then with supplements, I honestly, I don't recommend supplements a lot.
Yeah,
When there's deficiencies, yes, but I'm usually recommending a specific vitamin, not like a blend for the most part,
mhm.
because sometimes when those supplements, they don't have enough vitamin D in them, or they don't
Absolutely.
have enough of the zinc in them to help the deficiency. And so I usually recommend the individuals.
Yeah, I think I stopped trusting supplements when I found out they weren't FDA regulated. You can basically put anything you want on the bottle.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay. Well, we have a great question in
Hmm.
the comments, and I want to make sure um, to say this to make sure that we're speaking across about all types of diabetes. So, Tyra says, are type 1 diabetes affected the same way? I assume it
Hmm.
is, but I want you to answer that question.
Yes, yeah. So you'll be right in that, right? Because similar mechanisms, especially as it relates to the hair follicle.
Okay, great.
Hmm.
And you just talked about, you would recommend over a supplement eating more of a certain type of food,
Hmm.
right? Getting more certain type of vitamins and nutrients. Let's talk about what that looks like. So,
Hmm.
when you are advising on nutritional way of eating to encourage healthy hair, what types of things should people be eating?
So one of the things that I say all the time is we have to eat enough, right? And we know, right, disordered eating disorders, chronic dieting, a lot of people are under eating. But like I mentioned earlier, the hair is a energy intensive process, right? Energy, calories are energy, right? So if we're under eating due to busy schedules or dieting or eating disorder, the hair can really struggle to get the energy that it needs to grow, right? And so out of adaptation, the body can really down regulate that process, and we can experience the hair loss. So eating enough and really meeting those energy needs. Secondly, the hair is a protein, right? So
Mhm.
uh, complete protein sources, plant protein sources, pairing those. Um, Vitamin D rich foods. So if you eating dairy, and then the like fish, like the fatty fish, to get in some of that vitamin D. Um, Vitamin C is a collagen precursor, so
Mhm.
vitamin C rich foods like um, tomatoes, pineapples, oranges, peppers,
Mhm.
um, and zinc. We also
Mhm.
need zinc to help with the turnover in the dermal papilla, or like the hair bulb.
Okay.
So we need zinc. So like pumpkin seeds, I to recommend. So those are some of the like top nutrients that I'm usually recommending for hair, for scalp, vitamin E, um, as well as those omegas as well, to help to really nourish the scalp and help protect the scalp barrier.
Mhm. Okay.
Oh, and
That's
iron. I can't believe I forgot iron. Iron, of course. It's like one of the top like deficiencies, like mineral deficiencies, like in the world. So iron for sure. So getting in those animal foods, if you know you do that, or if not, like plant rich foods, and that would be an area where maybe specific supplementation would be helpful if
mhm.
you are not eating animal foods to get in enough iron. And then I'll say loosely B vitamins, but not biotin.
Why
B
not? Why
vitamins,
not? Why not biotin? I see it in hair products.
yes. So the gut actually produces biotin.
Okay.
The gut actually produces biotin, and biotin deficiency is extremely rare. And there's
Mm.
actually no like research that we know of that supports biotin supplementation if there's not a deficiency.
Hmm. Wow. And you
Hmm
see that in
hmm
everything. Like when I go, and I think I probably used biotin products in the
No,
past,
right.
thinking I'm really doing something, you know?
Uh-huh. I would say like Biotin has a good PR team. Like I don't know
Yeah.
like where they came from. So
Yeah, and nothing that you said is totally off the wall. I mean, it just sounds like a good, sound, nutritional eating
hmm
plan. I don't
hmm
want to say
hmm
diet, right? It just sounds
uh-huh.
like the way we're supposed to be eating.
Uh-huh.
Two follow
Uh-huh.
up questions. One, you said eat enough. And somebody that's counting calories still, or people are still counting calories in this day and age, hopefully not. But somebody that's counting calories still is probably like, well, how much is enough? Because you mentioned calories. So
hmm
speak to
hmm
that a little bit and let me know. Because when you say eating enough, I take it as eating enough real foods. Because people can eat
Uh-huh.
all day long, eat a whole bunch of processed, and hardly
Hmm
eating any like real
Yeah.
good, clean food that has all the vitamins and minerals that you just
Yeah.
talked about. So
hmm
talk about like calories for those of
hmm
us that are still counting calories.
Yeah. Ooh, that's hard. Um, right, because we all have like
Yeah.
different
Like
amounts.
what is eating enough? Yeah.
What is eating enough? Yeah. And there's not necessarily any research that looks at like these are the amount of calories you need to eat if you are actively experiencing hair loss. The main thing that it talks about is if you're experiencing a scalp disorder, right? Because of the skin breakdown.
Mhm.
Um, Protein, if you were experiencing like active hair fall or scalp issues. So
Mhm.
there are some increased protein needs uh, as it relates to those things, and those are similar to like other skin conditions, like in wound
Yeah.
care, right? We would
Mhm.
increase protein for that, so that there is recommendations around that. But for as far as calories, I typically just try to get people to their like estimated needs,
Mhm.
so out of the calorie deficit,
Mhm.
um, to kind of meet
Okay.
those needs, estimated needs.
Okay. And we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about what you should eat. Let's talk a little bit about hydration because I know that's something, as I have my water here, that's something I
Right,
tend
right.
to
Uh-huh.
struggle with from
Uh-huh.
time to time. I personally can tell when I'm dry because I'm
Yeah.
like, ugh, ugh,
Mm-hmm.
my
Mm-hmm.
scalp is itchy,
Mm-hmm.
right? So talk
Mm-hmm.
about the importance of drinking water and hydration and how that lends to a healthy scalp and good
Yeah.
hair or works against it if you're not getting enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the first thing I'd say is like the scalp is skin, right? I think because it's covered by, all the hair, we don't think about it in
Mm-hmm.
that way. But the scalp like needs water. And the hair, although it's primarily made out of protein, it also has water in it as well. And so when we think about dryness, we want to think about water, right? Because when we're thirsty, we don't drink oil,
Mm.
right?
That's the first thing we put on our hair when it's
But
dry,
it's the first thing we put on our hair.
or
And
our
so,
skin sometimes.
uh-huh,
Yeah.
uh-huh. So that's a lot of education, especially with us like Black women, right? Like, and
Mhm.
rightfully so, because you think it's like historically, our hair, most of us had relaxed hair, heat, we use heat on our hair, and so putting water on the hair doesn't make sense, right? Because it's gonna revert.
Mhm.
So definitely, I have to do a lot of education with my like patients around hydration. One comes from within, but also if we're going to do topical hydration, we need to be using water-based products or water to hydrate the scalp because water is the only thing that's hydrating.
Yeah. I think as natural girlies, we're all good with that, right? Because when we
Yes,
big
right.
chop and we had that TWA
Okay, my hair was wet
every
every
day,
day.
every day,
Every
it was
day.
getting water. But I think those that have a relaxer
Mm-hmm.
or getting bone straight, like no, they're trying to
Mm-hmm.
stay away from water as much as possible.
Yes, yes, yes. So in that case, trying to hydrate as much as and meet those like water goals, or like I said, using like water-based products in between your like presses or how whatever you're getting done to your hair. You can
Okay.
also try like things like glycerin, hyaluronic acid, right? Those things are humectants, so they
Okay.
pull in more water. So if you are only putting water on your hair once or twice a week, because of your style, maybe you can try to implement those to really like maximize that hydration.
Oh, that's a great tip. Thank you.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, what if someone wants to get a particular lab test done? Are there tests? Can I go to my doctor and say, "Hey, my hair's thinning here," or my hair is really brittle and kind of crispy, and take a particular lab test to give them a clue into what's going on with their hair?
Yeah, so there could be like an iron deficiency, a vitamin D deficiency. Those are some of the most common ones. Zinc deficiency, um, I would say. And then as far as the hormone related hair loss, we want to look at the testosterone, the free testosterone. But the thing with androgenic alopecia is that you could have normal testosterone and still be experiencing the androgenic alopecia because it has more to do with the sensitivity of the hair follicle to the
Mhm.
DHT than just the DHT, the testosterone in the blood by itself.
Okay. Okay. So most of
Hmm.
the test is going to be hormone related. It's going to be
Hormone.
nutrition
Hmm.
deficiency.
Hmm.
Okay. And
Hmm.
then one of the
Yeah.
questions, I
Yeah.
have another question on nutrient deficiency is, can someone have a nutrient deficiency even when they're eating enough food or living in a larger body?
Mm-hmm.
Specifically
Yeah.
living in a
Yeah.
larger body.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I know this is one of the things that was so frustrating for me when I worked at the hospital, right? Of like, oh, this patient needs like tube feeding or they need nutrition, right? And a lot of the weight bias, right, in the hospital of like, oh no,
Mhm,
they can
mhm,
be NPO for 3, 4, 5 more days. And it's like, no, like that is unsafe for them. And so yes, absolutely, of course, like people in it honestly, I mean, I don't know if this is like it's not like research backed, but
mhm.
there might even be more at risk because of the history of chronic
Mm.
dieting, some of the
Yes.
bariatric surgeries, GLPs, right? And so there might be more at risk,
Let's get
honestly.
into that. So I had the sleeve a couple of years ago,
Hmm. Hmm.
and
Hmm.
that was the biggest thing I was scared. I wasn't scared of
Hmm.
anything else. I was scared I was going to lose my locks. And I started
Uh-huh.
taking collagen and what else was I
Uh-huh.
taking? I was taking all these
Uh-huh.
other kind of supplements months leading up to the surgery because I
You're
was
ready.
like, I'm just going to prepare myself. Right. So I never
Uh-huh.
did Thank God. I never did have that issue. I know a lot of people that do that. But let's talk about that because we know people, they do the yo-yo dieting.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, the
Mm-hmm.
GLP-1, I did not
Mm-hmm.
realize that
Mm-hmm.
GLP-1 also takes, causes hair loss as well. So
Mm-hmm.
speak a little bit more about what restricted dieting or yo-yoing and how that affects the hair growth cycle.
Mm-hmm. So first, it comes back to, again to that energy, the energy, right? The hair does not have the energy if we're barely getting enough calories to support our vital organs. The body is smart, right? It's created for survival, so it's going to down-regulate those unnecessary processes. Very similar for how people, when they have their menstrual cycle, if they're not eating enough or they're
Mhm.
over exercising the energy, they're going to lose that, right? Because it's not a necessary
Right.
process. So
Function,
similar.
process, yeah.
So very similar with the hair. The body's going to down regulate that process. Save that energy. Let's either store it or use it for something else that's more important. Um, could also be related to the like significant like metabolic shift, the metabolic shift that happens with like significant like calorie restriction. It could also be related to the surgery in and of itself, right? That's a stressor, something that it can disrupt the the hair growth cycle, and then also nutrition. So if your GI tract is
Doesn't absorb
different,
the same. Yeah. Yes.
and there's less surface area for absorption.
Mhm.
Um, you know, B12, right? Iron, all those things that absorb there
Yeah.
in the stomach. Um,
It's harder to get
so
your protein, right? Especially if you have a
yes,
smaller,
yes,
restrictive stomach. It's
yes.
hard to get your protein in.
Mm-hmm.
Which,
Mm-hmm.
to me, if I said there was the top three things, I'm assuming protein is probably number one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What would you
Mm-hmm.
say are number two and three? If there were just, to not overwhelm people, if they wanted to start small, making sure that
Mm-hmm.
they, are eating the things that are going to put them in the best situation. What would those three things you would recommend they focus on?
I would say protein. I would say in zinc you're gonna get your protein. So
Okay.
I'll and iron too. So
Okay.
protein because zinc you get the protein you're getting your protein, iron, and your zinc.
Okay.
And some of your B vitamins. So that's a great one.
Okay.
And those are animal proteins in particular. And then vitamin D.
Mhm.
I'd say that's a big one.
And I think
And
every Black person I know is deficient in vitamin D, including
vitamin D.
myself, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. So I'll say this because I just thought about the word like deficient, right? So there's a different, it's like 30 to 100, right? For
Correct.
the
Correct.
range. So when we think about hair health, we want it somewhere around like the 50, 60, like 30, 34 is like you can very much
still
still be
still
experiencing.
very much
So,
deficient. Okay, somebody in the
mm-hmm,
comments said
hmm.
so true. And I think that's
Yeah.
important to mention that when we talk about lab results and tests for people of color, those normal ranges don't always apply to people
Mm-hmm.
of color. And so it's so
Mm-hmm.
important that we touched on that. And
Mm-hmm.
since we're talking about people of color, specifically, we'll talk about Black women,
Uh-huh.
and,
Uh-huh.
and Black people. How do you help clients? Because I assume you work more with women than men. Is that
Mm-hmm.
correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How do you help women incorporate their traditional? I didn't even ask for. You're in Tennessee, right?
I'm in Tennessee.
You're in
Uh-huh.
Tennessee. I'm in Texas. So we're in the
Oh,
South.
okay.
So
Yes.
how do you help them incorporate their cultural, in this case, Southern
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
foods
Mm-hmm.
into the nutritional
Mm-hmm.
education and planning that you assist them with?
Yeah. So my initial visit is like 90 minutes. Like it's a long time. And in that session, like I'm asking so many questions. And of those questions, I'm asking, what are your favorite foods? Where did you grow up? Did you grow up in Memphis? Did you grow up in Mississippi? Like, did you grow up in
Yeah.
Puerto Rico? Like, where did you grow up? Who did you grow up with? Because I want to know about what like food cultures are important to you, what types of foods are important to you. And so then from there, if it's something I'm familiar with, I'm thinking about those things as I'm putting together a plan,
Mhm.
as we're brainstorming ideas. I am bringing those foods like back up. If it's something I'm not familiar with, I'm asking.
Mhm.
I whenever I travel to different countries, that's one of the things I do try to do is like take a cooking class or some sort of food course so that I can learn about various foods around the world, so that when this patients come into my office, I feel more equipped to include those cultural foods into their dietary patterns, because there is value and there's like nutritional value in the food patterns all across the
Mm-hmm.
world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, as healthcare providers, like we were also taught about the Mediterranean diet, which is great. But I think the more that I got into practice and just like doing my own research and working with people and again, traveling, I'm like, wait, these things look very similar. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so
Okay, so it sounds like you incorporate as much as possible, and I love that cultural responsive
hmm
approach,
hmm
and honoring the individual.
yeah.
Let's transition a little bit. I want to talk about hair equity. I mentioned
hmm
it a little
hmm
bit at the
hmm
beginning of this conversation. What does hair equity mean to you?
That's really interesting when you were talking about when you like brought that up. I'm like, hair equity. I didn't
You haven't
know.
quite heard those two words put together
Yeah,
before I
I
have you.
haven't. I haven't.
Yeah.
No, so I was very interested to hear more about like
Well,
your programs that you
let me.
did.
So I've talked to people. First of all, I thought about this. It's so like until you experience or have a conversation, like you
Uh-huh.
don't start seeing the stuff, right? It's
Uh-huh.
like when you
Uh-huh.
buy a car and then you just start seeing that same car on
Uh-huh.
the road everywhere.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So last week I was traveling. I was in Arizona and I was getting ready to take a shower. And you know how they have like the shampoo, the conditioner that on the
Uh-huh.
wall, and I'm like,
Uh-huh.
none of that works for me.
Uh-huh.
And so when you think about when you are admitted into a hospital, if you happen to be admitted or family member admitted into a hospital, you're usually given this care package of hygiene kit, so to speak, and it will have shampoo or will have conditioner, will have a lotion. The lotion always dries me out, as a matter of fact. But I know when I was building this particular curriculum, I spoke to someone that said they worked at a children's hospital, and a young girl that was on a vent and very much bed bound, but because nobody was washing her hair or really taking care of her hair, she started getting like these holes burrowed in her scalp and she started going bald in some places. And this is what this community health worker noticed and why she decided to take action. They actually built hair kits
Oh wow.
for people of color. So with different
Wow.
types of products that they could put in those kits
Mm-hmm.
for the different children that came. And I was
Mm-hmm.
so impressed with that. They even
Mm-hmm.
have a hair equity committee
Oh
at the
wow.
hospital. And I thought this is something that you can replicate in other hospitals and areas. And it was the first time I learned so much building that curriculum that I really stopped to think about, in certain areas and in certain communities, there really isn't hair equity. If you
Mm-hmm.
go into certain stores in
Mm-hmm.
certain neighborhoods, you may not necessarily find the type of products that you
Yeah.
need to take
Yeah.
care of your hair. And so it's almost a form of hair discrimination. I hate to say that, I hate to
Mm-hmm.
say that,
Mm-hmm.
but when you think about it as something that is so important, again, our crown is
Yeah.
so important to us. And it really does when you have psoriasis or alopecia, hair loss,
Mm-hmm.
those things affect quality
Mm-hmm.
of life,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
absolutely
Absolutely.
affect
Uh-huh.
quality of life. And so
Mm-hmm.
it becomes very important to a person's identity when they have the resources they can to
Mm-hmm.
support taking care of
Mm-hmm.
their skin, their scalp,
Yeah.
and their hair. So that's what hair equity
Oh, very
is.
cool. Very cool. And
Yeah.
as you were talking, I started thinking about even in dermatology offices, right? Like I've heard so many of my patients go and doctor doesn't touch their hair.
Yep.
It's not sure necessarily. Like, is that their hair? They don't know how to have a conversation about a wig or
I was just
weave.
about to say, or they say something about their weave or their
Yeah.
braids. That is
Uh-huh.
another part of the curriculum that we talked
Yes.
about. A
Yes.
lot of dermatological programs do not share images and pictures of
Uh-huh.
eczema in black
Mm-hmm.
skin,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
ringworm in black
Yeah.
skin, which can
Mm-hmm.
sometimes look like the other, right?
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
so I'm so glad that you brought that up because that's a part of hair equity as well. Imagine
Mm-hmm.
having a scalp condition
Mm-hmm.
and you go to see a dermatologist, and that would be the proper person to go see,
Right.
correct? I mean, you may go
Mm-hmm.
to see your
Mm-hmm.
family practice and then they refer you, but you
Right.
can see a dermatologist for whatever skin, scalp, and hair condition, and they don't even touch your scalp.
Mm-hmm. And it took you 6 months to get in because the
And oh my
specialist
God, and
is
it's
from,
I'm getting
yeah.
upset just thinking about it,
Yeah.
right? That is a
Yeah.
big
But that's
injustice.
the reality. Yeah.
It is the reality of so many people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Probably, and again, I'm like you, this is no science based. I can't remember the stats from when we did the curriculum, but so many people, probably 8 out of 10 people are misdiagnosed because of
Yeah.
that type of experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
am super excited that there are people like you that are out there that
Mm-hmm.
have
Mm-hmm.
chosen to specialize in this area.
Yeah.
And of course, we need the representation for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's
Yeah.
something on
Yeah.
your website, and I love your logo, by the way. It
Oh,
does look
thank
like a
you.
bulb. It looks like a hair follicle or
Uh-huh.
a root
Uh-huh.
vegetable. I love that. So I
Yeah.
downloaded your freebie,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things that I wanted to ask, let me see if I can pull it up. I should move it over here so I'm not looking so far away. So your freebie talks about, and her website, by the way, everybody is feedingtheroot.com.
Mm-hmm.
But your freebie is blood sugar friendly tips for healthy hair and scalp. And I want to kind of,
Mm-hmm.
as we transition to the end of our conversation, if you would just share some of those blood sugar friendly tips with our viewers and
Mm-hmm.
listeners.
Yeah, so it kind of similar to like our conversation of like what we've been talking about. But some of the primary things are really like that consistency, like with eating throughout the day. Again, with the restricted dieting and sort of eating and even just like busy schedules. We can go very long periods without eating. But we know that like more regular, more consistent eating really can help support more like consistent blood sugar, less of those like insulin rises throughout the day, less of that like cortisol and like inflammation like in the body. So really trying to eat more consistently throughout the day, eating those protein, carbohydrate, fiber rich meals together um, to help with the feeling of like fullness throughout the day. I mentioned earlier like about those like primary like nutrients that are really prioritized. So like the proteins, the vitamin D, but also hydration, like we talked about earlier. Really prioritizing hydration. We know that that can also help support like blood sugar management while also supporting the hair and scalp and helping with support the scalp barrier, while also the like dryness in the hair strand of it in and of itself. And then when we think about the meals that we're eating, those carbohydrates, trying to make sure those are those more complex, colorful carbs. Not only do those more complex carbs have more fiber in them, so they're not increasing our blood sugars in most cases as significantly, they also have those antioxidants in them. And the research is starting to talk about something called like follicle aging. Um,
Mm.
and the stress like on the follicle, and so increasing getting in those various colors, those reds, orange, yellows, blues, purples, and those antioxidants can really help to reduce the oxidative stress on the hair follicle.
Oh, that's so good. I have a lot of colorful food in the fridge, but because what is the cycle? What is the
Cyclos, yeah, yeah,
no,
for
the
us,
cycle, something like that that's giving me all
yes.
the watery diarrhea. So my husband's
Uh-huh.
not letting me eat it, but I'm gonna eat it and pray about it. No, so give us because the only thing I can think of at the top of my head, and I'm not a nutritionist, is mushrooms. Tell us what foods are high in vitamin D because I think most of us are like, oh, just go out and get some sun. Go out and get some
Mm-hmm,
sun, right? So
mm-hmm,
what foods can we eat that will give us some vitamin D?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So you're right, mushrooms. Also some fatty fish.
Okay,
Um, hot.
same fish that's high in omega threes.
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
mm-hmm,
Okay.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. An odd one that I sometimes recommend is cod liver oil. Did you have to
Girl,
growing up?
you just threw me back to my
Flashbacks.
childhood. Anytime we were sick, my daddy would give us a tablespoon of cod
Hmm.
liver oil.
Hmm.
What about sardines?
Okay, yes,
Okay,
yes.
I bought some of those
Yeah.
yesterday. I can
Uh-huh.
do that, but
Uh-huh.
I ain't doing the cod
Hmm.
liver oil.
Cod
No,
liver.
no, no. Okay,
Sometimes
okay.
I try to mix it into things
Mhm.
to make it as less like thick. But yeah, those things. And then of course fortified milk.
Okay.
Things like yogurt, like that are fortified, and then the fortified like cereals.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
Somebody said my
Hmm.
grandma used to give it. Somebody else said nasty cod liver oil. But
Nasty.
but hey, we may have to try it. Now I'm
It
feeding down my protein now. Like I'm
yeah.
feeding my hair. I'm feeding my hair. Leave me alone. I'm feeding my
Yes.
hair.
Feeding your root. Yep.
I
Yep.
love it.
Hmm.
Okay, so we're
Hmm.
gonna get ready to wrap up. I'm gonna do a rapid fire, and
Okay.
I'm gonna do this is true false, okay,
Okay. Okay.
or myths facts. I think
Okay.
I'll do myths facts, and
Okay.
then we
Okay.
may have some follow up discussion around it. So the first
Okay.
myth or fact is hair loss is always genetic.
Myth.
Myth. Okay, I think you've given us plenty of reasons to see
Uh-huh.
that as a myth. Traditional foods can fit into diabetes management.
Fact.
Yes. Thank
Because
you.
a bean is a bean. Sorry.
A bean is a bean. I love
Yes.
it. I
Yes.
love it. You need to lose weight before your health can improve.
Myth.
Myth. You want to add anything to that?
Um.
Because I love that you are a weight inclusive nutritionist,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like to think I'm a woman that's on the larger side. And I
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
remember when I was working as a nurse, instead of taking the elevator, which takes so long, I would
Hmm.
take the stairs. And I'd be passing by people that were like this big. And
Hmm.
I, and that was the first time I realized, like, oh, just being
Hmm.
skinny doesn't necessarily mean that you're healthy, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
I don't
Yes.
have when I had my sleeve, I didn't get
Hmm.
approved here in the States
Hmm.
because you have to
Hmm.
be 100 pounds overweight and have comorbidities, right? You
Hmm.
have to have other
Hmm.
medical conditions. I don't have diabetes. I
Hmm.
don't have hypertension. I don't have high cholesterol. I
Hmm.
just was 100 pounds overweight. So I
Hmm.
actually
Hmm.
had to go to Mexico and pay out of
Hmm.
pocket in order to have my
Hmm.
sleeve. So
Yeah.
I'm going to add the response to that. No, you don't have
Yes.
to lose weight
Yeah.
before your health
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
improve.
Yeah. And I guess I'll say like um there's not any condition that is unique to people in larger bodies.
Say that again for the people in the back of the room, girl. I love
there
that.
there's not any medical condition that is unique to people in larger bodies.
Oh, we got to make that a sound bite. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay, this is a myth or fact. The next four. One food that you believe deserves more credit. Please be a carb. Please be a carb. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I was gonna say a food group beans,
Beans. Okay. Carb protein. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
protein,
Any particular
protein,
beans?
protein, fat, fiber,
That's right.
carbs.
All the
Yeah.
above.
Uh-huh.
Any
Uh-huh.
particular beans?
No, I would say beans.
Okay.
Affordable, shelf stable, versatile,
I have to
hot or cold.
yes, and very much a cultural staple or a staple in many cultures is what I
Yes,
should
yes,
say.
yes. And that's why I said any bean because I was gonna say black eyed peas, but any bean.
Any
Because
bean. Okay,
yeah, any
love
bean.
that.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
is really, really,
Hmm.
really good.
Hmm.
One lab value people should discuss with their provider.
I'm gonna say vitamin D.
Vitamin D.
I'm gonna say vitamin D. Um, or the CRP.
CRP.
Separate inflammation, the test for like
It's
inflammation.
inflammation. I'm trying to think of what is some reactive protein. Girl,
C reactive
see,
protein.
that's it,
Yeah.
girl. You're taking me
Hmm.
back, and I haven't been clinical in 11 years.
Yes.
C-reactive proteins. So, oh
Hmm.
God, I could
Hmm.
talk. We could do a whole nother topic on inflammation because I had a 5 year
Hmm.
journey of infertility, and literally it's because my body was
Hmm.
inflamed, which
Hmm.
I know can affect so much. So I
Yeah.
love that. A
Yeah.
CRP people,
Hmm. Hmm.
C-reactive protein.
Hmm.
One question every patient with hair loss should ask.
Hmm. One question. Oh, that's hard.
Oh.
Uh, I was gonna ask about like maybe I would ask questions around what what would a like integrative approach look like?
I love that. So when you say integrative, and of course,
Hmm.
my nurse
Hmm.
mind goes to
Hmm.
holistic medicine,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
I'm assuming
Hmm.
you mean a dermatologist, maybe the family practice doctor, the nutritionist. Is that what
Hmm.
you mean by
Yeah,
integrative?
yeah.
Okay.
The hair, even in
That
that case,
oh,
maybe the
that's the
hairstylist. Yeah,
hairstylist. That
because
is so.
a lot of times people like will be recommended, well, just take minoxidil. And sometimes people don't want to take minoxidil. They don't want to take spironolactone only.
Right,
And
right,
so
right,
maybe
right.
asking, like really encouraging their doctor to think beyond just like surface level and um, offer other options that could be complementary. So we
Yeah.
say like what is the term? There's like functional medicine.
I was just about to say, I was just about
Yes.
to ask you about functional medicine
Yes.
and your
So there's
thoughts
like
about it.
functional medicine, then there's like
Approach.
yes, and then there's like
Correct.
traditional medicine. I guess the word maybe would be more complementary. Like what would be more, because that's kind of like the middle. I would say that's more
Yeah.
of like what I practice, like complementary. So I
Yeah.
bring kind of both of them together because I'm not either or.
Hmm.
I think that traditional medicine and like functional medicine can like definitely work together. And so
I
maybe
love
ask
that.
the dermatologist, what would a complementary or integrative approach look like?
I love that. I think that should be like for everything, not just for hair loss.
Right. Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Right.
Somebody said
Yeah.
some doctors, yes, some doctors don't
Yes.
practice functional medicine.
Oh,
Absolutely,
for
which is
sure.
why I
Yeah.
think that is such a great question to ask
Hmm.
about the integrative.
Hmm.
And some
Hmm.
are going to shut it down.
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
treat the condition, they treat the
Hmm.
diagnosis, and that is
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
But as we established earlier in this call, we are whole people, and
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
sometimes you can't just look at one thing. You have to look and connect the dots to everything that's
Yeah.
going on. So that is
Yeah.
such a great
Yeah.
question.
And I'll say like
Um,
if they don't practice functional medicine, that's why we're asking like if they could then refer you to a dietitian, if they could work with your primary care, if they could maybe like refer you to like a gynecologist to look at your hormones, and if they'd be willing to like work with your like hairstylist. So
yeah.
not necessarily asking them to do it all, but to partner with and
Yeah.
provide.
At least give you the instructions that you
Yes,
then tell,
yes.
when you go, make
Uh-huh.
sure they wash with this or they do
Hmm.
this or,
Hmm. Hmm.
there's no traction or this type of
Yeah.
style, right?
Right.
Which is
Right.
why
Yeah.
representation is so important
Right.
in this
Right.
particular space because I can talk to somebody about locks and natural hair and big chops and,
Uh-huh.
and my experiences and products all day long, but someone that doesn't have that same lived experience cannot do that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay,
Yep.
one word you want women experiencing hair loss to, I'm not going to say one word, one thing you want women experiencing hair loss to remember.
Hmm. Um, I would say where there's hair, there's hope.
Where there's hair,
Hmm.
there's hope.
There's hair,
I
there's hope. Yeah.
like that a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hope everybody has enjoyed this conversation as much as I have. I've learned a lot. I feel like this could be a whole series of conversations about hair health in general and also hair health and diabetes. And so hopefully we've answered the question that we posed at the top of the hour. Is your hair trying to tell you something?
Hmm.
Where can viewers learn more about feeding the new root nutrition and how can they connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram here at Your Hair Nutritionist. And then my website, like you mentioned, Feeding the Root, feedingtheroot.com. So I am licensed to see patients in Tennessee, Mississippi, Arkansas, and Georgia. I can work virtually, but then also, yes, I do work, try to, share educational information on Instagram as well.
Mhm. Do you take insurance?
I do. I do. I'm in
Okay.
network with insurance, and most nutrition counseling is covered 100% under preventive care.
Oh wow,
So I would say 95% of my patients don't pay anything out of pocket.
that's really good to know.
Hmm. Yeah.
Did I ask everything? Is there anything that I missed? Is there anything you want to share before we end our DID dialogue this evening?
I don't think so. I think this has been really, really fun to chat. I haven't done an IG live in a long time, so this was really
Me
this
either.
was
That
this
makes two
was
of
so
us.
fun. It's like threw me back to 2021 when we were all doing IG lives. But I guess I'll just say I think with many things that we experience as Black women, like we know ourselves,
Mhm.
we notice when things are going on, and so one, like try to take the time to acknowledge those things like within yourself, and then try to make the time to go seek like help with this, because I would say one of the biggest things that I see in my practice is that people have been experienced when I ask them, how long have you been dealing with this? 5 years,
Oh,
6 years.
yeah.
I was seeing my stylist, and we were doing, which again, stylist, great. However,
Some of them
we
I say they're ministries, like they work magic. Yes.
yes,
Mhm.
but hair loss is a medical condition. It's not a
Thank you for saying.
cosmetic.
Thank you for
It's not a
saying that.
cosmetic issue.
Yeah.
So it needs to be treated by a medical provider. It needs to be diagnosed by a medical provider. And so notice the signs, go to the doctor and advocate for yourself to get a diagnosis and get on top of it as soon as you can, because the sooner you start treatment, the better, the more likely the prognosis is going to be.
Hmm.
Especially with some of these inflammatory hair loss like the CCCA. Once the scarring happens, the
It
hair
doesn't, there's
likely
no,
isn't.
can't grow from it. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So we want to get ahead of these things and get proper diagnosis so that we can start getting better treatment as soon as possible.
I'm so glad I asked you, did you have something else you want to share? Because that was gold. It really was. I want to thank you so much for your time. You got some great comments in the chat. I agree. This was a very fruitful dialogue for this month. And we hope you join us next month for DID Dialogue. Thank you so much, Samaria, for joining us. Everyone,
Bye.
have a great rest of your evening and rest of your week. We'll see you guys next month. Take care.
Thanks.